At my grandma's will reading, my father, the man I called Dad for 27 years, stood up in front of every lawyer and relative. He didn't just give my sister Emma the entire $15 million. He dropped a bomb that made my whole body go numb. Lila isn't our daughter. She's some unacknowledged stray my mother took in out of pity. She gets nothing. Pause. She gets nothing. What's more, she's also responsible for a $500,000 debt. Her useless numbers caused our family charity. The room erupted. My heart shattered, but deep down I had this strange feeling, like my real grandmother, my Nana, had seen this day coming. She low-key prepared for this. That secret USB under the oak tree, it was the answer to everything. Wait, did you catch that? I said Grandma's will, but then my Nana. You're not hearing things. And this is the mind-blowing, heartbreaking secret that made me realize I'd been living a lie for 27 years. Stick around to uncover the truth they hid for decades. If you've ever been called useless or faced betrayal from your own blood, hit subscribe. We're demanding justice and healing those scars together. Comment, I support, to stand with Lila, because no one deserves to be robbed of their identity and future. It was 2 p.m. that Thursday. I, Layla Harper, 27, was standing in a silent church in Boise. Mom called at 5 a.m. Her voice was sweet as honey, but I heard the knife underneath. Lila, honey, Grandma Eleanor passed away. The funeral is at 2. I flew straight from Austin, but the church was dead empty. No one, just the silence cutting through me. Was this the first act in the setup they planned? I needed the truth before they took everything. I drove nearly 8 hours just to say goodbye. The phone kept ringing empty. I tried Mom, Dad, nothing. It was like they were bricking the walls between us. My mind flashed back to the documents from that strange law firm, Winslow and Pratt, peeking out on Dad's desk. That name felt like a death sentence now. I grabbed a cab to the farmhouse. The wind chime was clicking on the porch, a lonely sound. The door creaked open, chilling me to the bone. Miriam, the housekeeper, was there. Her eyes skimmed over me. Lila, you actually showed up? Just for the will, I guess? Her voice was sharp. Miriam, stop. What's going on? My voice was firm, though I was shaking inside. She said, they told me you were too busy to talk. She held out Grandma's old leather-bound journal. Lila, she called this number every single day before she died. That hit me like a shard of glass. I shook my head, fighting back the memories. I lost my phone. Mom and Dad told me she was in a sterile room after her sickness in April. No visitors allowed. I remembered 8-year-old Emma's burning jealousy when Grandma praised my financial charts. She ripped up my award and screamed, I'm the one who deserves it. The doubt turned into a furious fire. This had to be a conspiracy. Miriam opened the journal. Emma told her this was your number. You never picked up. My hands gripped the table. I called the phone company on speaker. After a few seconds, we both froze. The number was registered to Emma. Emma cut off all contact between me and Grandma, I whispered, leaning against the wall. The truth was a lightning bolt ripping through the deception. How long had they been staging this? Miriam collapsed into the armchair. They told me the funeral was this afternoon, 2 p.m., I said. The shock was a whirlwind, tearing off my family's mask. My pain solidified, hardening into pure resolve. They didn't just lie to me. They tried to erase me. But they didn't know one thing. Before she passed, Grandma Eleanor sent me a cryptic text. If everything collapses, find the oak tree. Tomorrow at the will reading, I won't be a ghost they can ignore. I'm going to be the nightmare they created. I sat frozen in the Boise farmhouse living room. My hands were digging into the solid oak chair. My heart felt crushed by the truth we just uncovered. The wind chime outside was clacking, a haunting reminder of all the lies. Miriam's eyes weren't cold anymore. They were wide with pure horror. Oh my God, she whispered, gripping the chair. They actually did that? Now I get it, she said, her voice like steel. It explains everything, Lila. Your parents were here weeks ago with that lawyer from Winslow and Pratt. They kept talking about protecting Grandma's assets from undue influence. I thought they meant land speculators. I know now, they meant you. We walked across the field to the cemetery behind the hill. The dry grass and red Boise dirt crunched under our feet. Eleanor Harper, a dream planter. That's what the headstone read. I dropped my handful of wildflowers and knelt down, tracing her name with my finger. I tried, Grandma, I whispered, tears finally breaking through. My eyes found the old oak tree, the one she always pointed to. The oak tree holds our secrets, Lila. A tiny spark of hope flared inside me. I tried to visit you, but Emma built a wall between us, I choked out. The memory of Emma's old, jealous stare, a wound that never healed, burned across my mind. Miriam stood up, her gaze fixed. The reading is tomorrow morning. Everyone has to be here. The clock was ticking down to Judgment Day. In the kitchen, the scarred wood table was a painful reminder. That's where Grandma and I spent afternoons drawing financial charts. That memory warmed the cold room, but it also reminded me that her love had been poisoned by deception. Miriam made the calls. Dad, Mom, Emma, be here in 1 hour. There were muffled protests on the other end, but she hung up, her jaw set. The pressure of the reading felt like a rope tightening around my chest. Miriam turned to me, her eyes clouded with worry. Leela, I heard them talk about the will before. There's something I'm not supposed to say, but I'm on your side. I just nodded. My fingers traced the edge of the table, the spot where Grandma would sip coffee and review the finance journals I sent her. She never laughed. She asked about sustainable investing. Heavy footsteps thudded onto the porch. The doorbell chimed. Mom walked in. That fake smile was plastered on her face. She was adjusting her shawl, trying to hide the pure panic underneath. Lila, honey, I know you're hurting, but don't let your emotions misunderstand the family. Her voice was sweet, but the words were sharp. They cut right through me. Dad followed, straightening his tie. His eyes were ice cold. I thought this was already handled, he said, calm but chilling. Emma was the last one. Her hands were clasped tight. She glanced at me with pure disdain, but there was a flicker of something, fear, in her eyes, like she knew the secret was about to spill. Can't this wait? She sighed, her tone venomous. Miriam's voice was colder than ever. Take a seat. Lydia Tate is almost here. They had no idea I already knew about Emma's betrayal. A flame of resolve ignited in my chest. It was unstoppable. The door creaked again. The lawyer's voice was low and serious. It won't take long, but we must follow procedure, Lydia said. Her mysterious glance swept over me. It felt like Grandma Eleanor had given her a secret mission. The room was suffocating, like the dead calm before a massive storm, ready for the truth to explode. The Boise farmhouse living room was dead silent. The smell of old wood mixed with the chill sneaking through the faded curtains. The floorboards creaked under my feet. A family portrait on the wall seemed to mock the happy days that had totally shattered. Lila, come in, Miriam called out, her voice low, pulling me closer to the line of destiny. I stepped in, my hands gripping the edge of the table, struggling to breathe. I faced 3 pairs of eyes. Mom offered that fake smile, adjusting her scarf, her voice sickly sweet but poisonous. Lila, honey, I know you're sensitive. Maybe you're making up these stories because you're grieving too much. Dad tightened his fist, his gaze ice cold, like he wanted to erase me from existence. Emma was pale, her eyes flickered with disdain, but her clasped hands were shaking, terrified the truth would finally drop. Lydia Tate stood up. The gold envelope in her hand glinted under the light. I, Lydia Tate, executor authorized by Eleanor Harper, hereby announce her first will, established while she was of sound mind, legally certified in Boise, Idaho. I, Eleanor Harper, bequeath. Lila and Emma's father receives $15 million in other assets. Miriam receives the farmhouse and $2 million. Emma receives Novatech, valued at $10 million. Lila receives nothing. Her words felt like a sharp knife slicing deep into my heart, where the memory of Grandma holding my hand and teaching me honesty through financial charts now crumbled to ash. My father instantly jumped in, his voice dripping with fake pity. Regarding the $500,000 debt the attorney just mentioned in the compensation clause, we, out of the goodness of our hearts, will give you 3 months to pay it back. Consider it a lesson in reality, instead of just daydreaming with your useless numbers. I could barely breathe. They didn't just steal everything, they slapped me with a non-existent debt and insulted the one passion I had, numbers. Emma grabbed my hand, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. Don't be sad, sis. I'll take care of your share. Dad nodded, his eyes frozen. Lila, perhaps Grandma wanted those who truly cared about her to inherit. This is your lesson, he said, calm but sharp as the rustling leaves outside. Their words were a cold wind, threatening to blow out my fragile hope. I gripped the chair, forcing myself to stay calm, my gut twisting from the betrayal. I let out a harsh, dry laugh. You built a wall between me and Grandma, Emma, I said, my voice steady, despite the pain tearing me apart. I tried to visit, but you blocked me. Grandma knew I tried, while you only cared about jealousy. Mom sucked in a sharp breath. Enough, Lila. Dad shot up, the chair crashing behind him. Lila, you hold zero value in Grandma's eyes. Go figure out how to survive on your own. He snapped, his lips pressed thin, gripping his tie to mask his rage. I held my ground, my eyes locked on theirs, refusing to let them make me doubt myself. The hurt was a storm, but the steady flame of resolve inside me would not go out. The room fell silent as Lydia stood, cutting through the tense whispers. The rustling leaves outside grew louder, like they wanted to swallow the room whole. Everyone held their breath, my eyes glued to the new envelope in her hand. The paper crackled, announcing a new secret. However, Lydia said, her voice dropping, dragging the room into the abyss, Eleanor Harper established another will afterward, while of sound mind, legally certified. Lydia stared at me, her eyes sharp as a challenge. Mrs. Harper demanded I ensure you were worthy of this legacy. Her words were an unyielding ray of light, filling me with both hope and dread. Dad's eyes bugged out. What? Why would there be another will? Mom turned to Lydia, grabbing her shawl, her voice shrill. The first one was perfectly reasonable. She must have been senile. Emma bolted up, the chair clattering to the floor. Her hands were shaking, her eyes shooting hatred but laced with panic, knowing she'd already lost. This is a fraud. Lila can't have Novatech. I was there for Grandma. She disappeared. Lydia raised her hand, her eyes sharp. I, Eleanor Harper, bequeath. Lila receives Novatech and $13 million, on the condition she increases Novatech's profit by 10% in the first year to prove her capability. Miriam keeps the farmhouse and $2 million. The parents receive $1 million and a small property. Emma receives $0.5 million. Her words were a lightning flash, tearing through the deceit and sending my mind spinning. Their shock was a crashing wave, shaking the entire room. Miriam raised her hand, her eyes calm but sharp as cold steel. Grandma wasn't confused about Lila anymore, she said, her voice cutting through the emotional storm. A kind neighbor proved Lila always tried to visit her. Lydia took a letter from Miriam. The light hit the yellowed paper, igniting a new hope. Eleanor Harper requested I read this aloud, she said, unfolding the paper, her voice soft but steady. My dearest Lila, if this letter is being read, I'm no longer with you. I know you always tried to reach me. You are my light, with that financial journal you kept since you were 8, where you track property values with a dazzling smile. Every word felt like a sacred torch, lighting the love I thought was extinguished. The truth shattered the wall of lies, but Dad stood up, adjusting his tie, his gaze cold as ice. Attorney Tate, we do not accept the validity of this document. It's clear my mother was psychologically affected and incompetent. We will sue to nullify this will. I'll see you in court. That night, I sat at the kitchen table. The moonlight streamed through the window like a guiding flame. I opened my old financial journal, where I'd tracked Boise property predictions at age 8, the ones Grandma praised as rare talent. That memory was a promise, reminding me that Novatech, the company developing financial AI education for rural kids, was the legacy I had to protect. But when I flipped to the last page, a line from Grandma made me stop breathing. Lila, if they doubt you, find the investment plan under the oak tree. It will prove you are worthy. The clock was ticking like the heartbeat of the room, echoing in the heavy silence. Lydia Tate's voice reading Grandma Eleanor's letter felt like a sacred flame, lighting up my insides. Grandma's elegant handwriting pulled me back to those afternoons at the kitchen table, the lingering smell of coffee, sunlight hitting the financial journal I carefully kept. Her faith in you is still burning bright, Lydia said, her voice deep. A chill snuck through the curtains, carrying the weight of the hidden truth. My dearest Lila, I knew they wouldn't give up easily. Remember our oak friend at the end of the garden, where you cried when the greenhouse collapsed? I left a few things there to help you. And trust Miriam, but always remember that fear can make good people do things they never wanted to. Don't just protect your legacy, protect the truth. You are quiet, curious, always asking why, when no one else cared to look. Her words were like an embrace, holding me tight in that suffocating room. I held my breath. 8-year-old Lila flashed back, sitting next to Grandma, proudly drawing financial charts. Emma was hunched over, her shoulders shaking slightly, a flicker of panic in her eyes, knowing her secrets were about to crumble. You were never a mistake. You are the legacy I am most proud of. Tears streamed down my face, an undeniable declaration of the flame reignited within me. Lydia continued, the clock ticking louder now. I saw Emma's jealousy whenever you were close to me, her intentional attempts to cut off our contact. Emma's old, jealous stare, a wound that never healed, burned across my mind. I knew the truth, canceled the old will, and left Novatech to you, but you must prove your competence by passing the challenge. Every line felt like an unyielding ray of light, restoring justice. I don't entirely blame Emma, she was playing the role they assigned her. But you, Lila, you write your own role. Grandma's words were a storm, tearing away my illusions about family love. I saw the cold look in their eyes when you presented your investment plans, as if they were saying you didn't belong here. Miriam grabbed my hand, her eyes heavy. Lila, I already knew part of the truth. They threatened to take the farmhouse if I ever spoke up. But now, I'm on your side, no matter what the cost, she said, her voice steady as steel. I looked out at the garden where the old oak tree stood strong. A flame of hope burst, an unquenchable torch. I paused, my mind flooded with memories. Grandma pointing to the oak, saying, "It holds our secrets," a promise finally coming to light. Miriam, we have to find the oak, friend. Grandma left something there for me, I said, my voice shaky but firm. The silence was a mirror, reflecting all the deceit. Emma shifted, her chair creaking. You don't deserve it, Lila, she snapped, her hands clasped tight, trying to crush my hope, but her eyes flickered with doubt, torn by her own words. Grandma saw me, Emma, I countered, my voice steady. Not through your lies. The room was tense, waiting for the fire of truth to explode. I walked out to the garden. Sunlight streamed through the oak, guiding me. Digging under the tree, I found a small metal box. Inside was another letter and a USB labeled Novatech. The letter read, Lila, this is the sustainable investment plan you sent me at 15, the one using AI to teach financial literacy to rural kids. I saved it because I believe you will take Novatech into the future. Use this to prove your competence. I clutched the letter, tears streaming down my face, not from pain, but because Grandma's flame of faith still burned in me. However, the most shocking part wasn't the investment plan. It was a smaller, carefully sealed envelope with a trembling script on the outside, only open when denied. My heart hammered against my ribs. I ripped it open. Inside were a DNA test result and a long letter. My dearest Lila, if you're reading this, my worst fear has come true. The truth is, you are not adopted. You are my biological granddaughter. Your mother, Alina, my youngest daughter, she was the founder of Novatech. She passed away giving birth to you, and to protect you, I entrusted you to my eldest son to raise. This entire estate was originally your mother's, and now it's yours. Use this paper to claim what's always been rightfully yours. I went numb, my hands shaking violently, as I held the DNA test result confirming a direct bloodline between Eleanor and me. And then I remembered the $500,000 debt. I dug into the box and found an old financial report. It turned out it wasn't a debt at all. It was a massive loss from a failed high-risk investment my father secretly made 5 years ago. He used Grandma's charity's name and covertly pinned the blame on a child and my early financial notebooks just to cover up his own embezzlement. Grandma Eleanor found out and saved all the evidence. At the very bottom of the box, I found an old leather journal, embossed with the name Elena. Every page chronicled a young mother's journey. The pure joy of pregnancy, the pain of betrayal, the crushing loneliness, and the boundless love for the baby inside. That was me. The very last page, hastily written right before labor, shattered me completely. My dearest daughter, no matter what happens, know that I love you more than my own life. Novatech is my first baby, and I created it just for you. Live strong. Right below that raw confession was a line written in dried, decisive red ink, clearly Grandma Eleanor's. Attached, copy of special power of attorney signed by Elena on 10/15/2000X. I, Eleanor Harper, am fully authorized to decide all matters concerning Novatech and Alina's assets for the sole purpose of protecting them until Lila is an adult and competent. Any attempt by others to seize them is illegal. I flipped the page. A carefully photocopied legal document signed by my mother and grandma, complete with a notary seal. Everything was crystal clear now. Grandma's second will wasn't a sudden favor. It was the final execution of a legal mandate established nearly 2 decades ago, created to protect me and my mother's legacy. Now, I finally understood. Novatech wasn't just a company. It was my mother's love, her legacy, her life's ambition, and a sacred responsibility Grandma Eleanor spent her entire life preserving for me. But I didn't know that the real battle to keep that legacy was just beginning. And the most dangerous enemy wasn't waiting in the courtroom, but hiding right inside the code of the very company my mother founded, ready to destroy everything overnight. Just as I walked into the Novatech building at 6 a.m., chaos erupted. Every screen in the open plan office was flashing red, screaming emergency alerts. Jason, our head IT engineer, sprinted towards me, his face ghost white. "Miss Harper, the core system is under attack. The climate prediction algorithm for our sustainable agriculture project has been cracked and fully encrypted," Jason reported, frantic. "We just got a threat message from the attacker. They want a $1 million ransom in 12 hours, or all our data gets wiped. The government partnership contract will be immediately canceled." My heart stopped. My 90-day plan, my mother's entire legacy, could crash in one morning. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. "Do we have any backups?" Jason shook his head, his eyes desperate. "The last backup was also targeted. They know our system, ma'am. This isn't random." Just then, a young engineer stepped up and whispered, dripping with doubt, "Miss Harper, are you really capable of leading us through this crisis?" The words hit me like a knife. I turned, and standing right there was Emma. She stood ice cold, as if she had been waiting. Turns out that young engineer was one of her plants. "You don't deserve this, Layla." Emma snapped, her eyes full of contempt. "Look, you can't even protect the one thing Mom left behind. I was here with Nana, taking care of her every day, while you were off chasing a pipe dream in Austin." Every word I spoke now came out with a steady resolve, no hint of my earlier panic. "Emma built a wall between Nana and me," I said, my voice firm. "And now you're trying to destroy my mother's entire legacy? Nana saw me, Emma, not your manufactured lies." I stood tall, refusing to break eye contact, determined not to let anyone or anything, even this failure, make me doubt myself. Miriam cut in, her voice sharp as cold steel. "I was wrong to trust you, Emma. Nana knew the truth, and so do I." Her words were an unyielding light, tearing through the deceit. Emma flinched, her shoulders trembling slightly, a flash of regret crossing her eyes before she spun around, her heels slamming the floor like gunshots. "I regret that Eleanor left you anything at all," Miriam said, her eyes ice cold. "Get out, Emma. You're not welcome here." Emma snatched her bag, lips pressed tight, running from the truth. The door slammed shut, closing one chapter of lies, but I knew the war wasn't over. I took over Novatech, the company developing AI financial literacy, creating an app to teach rural kids money management through machine learning models. I was facing the Will's condition. A 10% profit increase in the first year. But within the first week, trouble hit. A Boise Times article called me the inexperienced heiress who's running Eleanor Harper's legacy into the ground. In the emergency meeting, employees whispered nervously. The metrics dashboard was flashing red, signaling massive losses. A crucial API integrating climate data for the sustainable project was leaked, and key data files vanished mysteriously. Suspicion rose like a cold wind. Was Emma behind all of this? The engineer's initial skeptical whispers still stung, a sharp reminder of the doubt. That night, alone in the Novatech office, I stared at the screen filled with red numbers. A flicker of self-doubt crept in. Am I doing this right? Do I truly deserve my mother's legacy? Then, the memory of Nana Eleanor, smiling and nodding at my 15-year-old investment plan, resurfaced. I took a deep breath. "You write your own damn script." Nana's words echoed in my mind. No, this wasn't just my fight anymore. This was a promise to both my mother and my Nana. The next morning I met Jason, the IT engineer who had worked closely with Nana. His eyes were sharp and loyal, a stark contrast to the suspicion surrounding me. "I found a trace," Jason said, pointing at a screen dense with code. Someone used an internal account, activated from an IP address here in Boise. And look at this, he zoomed in on a line of metadata. It links directly to Emma's email. They forgot to delete this. My heart hammered. Evidence. Hope sparked in Jason's eyes as I proposed the trap. A decoy file containing a top-secret financial prediction algorithm, rigged with an alert that would trigger if accessed without authorization. Smart, Jason nodded, a rare smile appearing. We're gonna catch a big fish. That evening, in the warm kitchen, Miriam and I cooked pumpkin squash soup. The smell of Idaho potatoes brought back memories of afternoons with Nana. I stirred the pot, the steam a soothing comfort on my face. She won't stop, I whispered. Maybe not, Miriam replied, her voice calm. But we have the truth. Her words were a small flame igniting hope. I looked out at the garden, where the old oak stood strong in the dark. The image of the memory box Nana left behind, the letter and the medal engraved with Lila, "You are my light," flashed in my mind, a steady beacon strengthening my resolve to protect Novatech. Beyond the wooden fence, the red dirt fields stretched out. The spot where the greenhouse I built at 10 collapsed, but which Nana called a magnificent disaster. The memory box under the oak was a steady flame, a constant reminder that Nana always saw me, even when my family tried to erase me from her world. The old bedroom with the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling still radiated the warmth of her love. The leaves rustled outside the window like whispers of hope. The old kitchen table felt like a true friend, bearing witness to every pain and every hope. Lydia handed me a small envelope. "Eleanor requested I deliver this when you started the education project," she said. The paper crackled like Nana's voice echoing in the room. "My dearest Lila," I read, my voice shaky. "When you were 12, you started an investment account with $500 from your birthday money. I managed it. Now it's worth $2 million, designated for rural children's education through Novatech's AI. You planted the seed, Lila. I only watered it. This is your legacy." I hugged the letter tight, tears falling. Not for the money, but because Nana saw the meticulous 8-year-old in me and believed in me from the very beginning. My family filed a lawsuit, claiming Nana was incompetent. The court date 3 months later felt like a vice tightening my chest. But I stood firm. Jason and I continued tracking the hacker's trail. One night, the screen lit up. "The hacker triggered the decoy file," Jason said, his eyes shining with hope. "The email leads straight to Emma, and the metadata reveals a Boise IP." I sank into my chair, gripping the edge of the table, feeling like I was standing on a precipice. During a future founders session, Mia, a shy 13-year-old from a small town, showed off her cybersecurity code, a function to block unauthorized access using dual authentication. "Did you read it, ma'am?" she asked, her eyes bright. I smiled. Of course. Explaining the flaw to Mia sparked an idea. I could refine the financial prediction algorithm by adding an authentication layer to trap the hacker. Jason nodded. "That's brilliant." Mia mentioned she used to think she wasn't smart enough to code because her village school lacked computers. "But Miss Harper gave me a notebook and told me to write down everything I didn't understand," she said, clutching the leather journal engraved with Nana's words. That moment was a soft landing, making me realize Nana's legacy wasn't just Novatech, but the seeds of hope, like Mia, that she planted. And those very seeds helped me achieve success. To persuade the Wharton investors, I presented a restructured AI project plan, integrating Boise climate data to optimize energy for the farms. "You have vision," they said, signing a $5 million contract. Novatech increased profit by 15% in the first year, despite the sabotage. Every step I took felt like a declaration. I didn't just survive, I flourished. When Mia fixed the bug in the code, her smile was a flame, reminding me of little Lila next to Nana. "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest," I said. Mia nodded, her eyes shining. That moment was a bridge, connecting me to Nana's legacy. Just then, Jason messaged me. "Deep metadata analysis results are in. There's a strange detail." The cottonwood trees swayed, like a promise of the future. Will this legacy be enough to build a world where no one is forgotten, or will the lawsuit extinguish my flame? I never expected that the answer wouldn't be found in the courtroom, but in that very strange detail. A detail that would make me realize I had misunderstood everything about Emma. and about the very mother I thought I knew. The sound of children laughing from the community garden drifted in like an anthem of hope. I wondered, have I truly found where I belong? Novatech was growing, but every failure, a wrong analysis, a rejected grant, was a brick on the path Nana paved. Every success, like overcoming Emma's sabotage, was a declaration that I didn't need permission to be myself. It was late afternoon. The lights were dim. I sat surrounded by documents, an empty coffee mug beside me. The quiet in the room pulled me back to the kitchen table with Nana. Her letter flashed in my mind. "You write your own damn script." That was the sacred fire keeping me warm. I finished the proposal for Future Coders, the financial AI education program for rural kids. Kids just like the Lila who used to be forgotten. Jason walked in, his eyes sparking with hope. "We got her," he said, pointing to Emma's hidden email, proving she hired the hacker to leak the project. I summoned my family to Novatech, not for revenge, but for the confrontation. My father adjusted his tie, his gaze cold, trying to erase me from his memory. My mother smiled, gripping her shawl, her voice sweet but sharp as the rustling leaves. "Lila, honey, why are you making such a scene? We only want what's best for you." Emma stood silent, her shoulders trembling, her eyes heavy, a flash of panic crossing her face. "I have the proof," I said, my voice ringing out with firm resolve, completely free of any fear. "But before we talk about your petty sabotage, let's talk about a bigger truth all of you have been hiding." I held up the old envelope. "You said I wasn't your real daughter? You said I had no right to inherit? Look at this." I projected the DNA test results in pages from my mother, Elena's, journal onto the big screen. "Here's the truth. I, Lila, am Eleanor's only biological granddaughter. My mother, Elena, was the founder of Novatech. You people, sitting right here, not only seized my assets, but you stole my identity and my history." I clicked to the next slide, clearly displaying the special power of attorney document. My voice rang with full authority. "And here is the undeniable legal proof. My mother, before she died, granted all rights to Nana Eleanor to protect Novatech for me. The second will Nana wrote wasn't to give me money, but to fulfill a final legal and moral duty, to protect my mother's legacy, the very thing all of you have tried to seize and malign. Your actions all along were not just ungrateful, they were illegal." I didn't stop. I projected the financial report regarding the $500,000 debt. "And the debt you pinned on me? It came from your own failed investment. You took money from Nana's charity fund, lost it, and then blamed a child and her innocent notebooks. Nana Eleanor knew everything. She wrote the second will not to punish you, but to protect me from your own deceit." I took a step closer, my gaze fixed on my father and mother, my voice laced with bitterness and pride. "And you, at my own grandmother's funeral, dared to call my numbers, my one and only pure passion, useless. But those useless numbers, those notebooks you scorned, became the most powerful weapon. They didn't just save me and save Novatech. They exposed your entire facade of lies and guilt. You were wrong." The room fell silent. My father turned ashen. My mother collapsed onto her chair. Emma stood rigid, her eyes panicked as she stared at the power of attorney document, like it was her own sentence. "And now," I said, my gaze cold as I focused on Emma, "we can talk about your sabotage. Because everything you did was not just an attack on me, but a direct attempt to destroy a legally protected legacy." Emma shot up, her voice trembling. "Mom told me you'd kick me out of Novatech, that you always looked down on me." She paused, breathing heavily. "Last week, I came to Future Coders intending to sabotage it again. I had already programmed a malicious code on a USB stick." Her voice choked up, her eyes distant, reliving the moment. "But when I pretended to ask a question, Mia, a 13-year-old girl from a small town, opened the leather notebook Nana gave her. Every line was a careful note of what she didn't understand. 'Look, ma'am,' Mia said, her eyes clear and full of trust. 'I wrote everything down. Will you teach me?' Emma closed her eyes, her voice raw with emotion. "That look, it was exactly like yours when Nana Eleanor taught you to draw charts. It was so innocent, so full of trust. I couldn't destroy that innocence. I ran away." She opened her eyes, looking directly at me, tears streaming down her face. "I hired the hacker because I was terrified of losing everything, but now I know I was wrong. I want to make amends, Lila." Just then my mother leaped up, her voice shrill, slamming her hand on the table. "Emma, you can't say that. Lila is ruining this family." But she slumped back down immediately, avoiding eye contact, as if the truth just spoken had strangled all the deceit. That truth, an unyielding light, had finally torn through the curtain of lies they had woven for years. "Mom manipulated both of us," I said, looking at Emma, my voice low. "I'll drop the lawsuit if you help fix the damage at Novatech. This isn't about revenge, it's a chance to live up to Nana's expectations." That decision felt like a bridge, connecting a painful past to an uncertain future. I remembered 8-year-old Emma, her envious look when Nana praised me, but Nana pulled her in too, teaching her to draw charts. The Eleanor Seed Fund launched, supporting 700 rural children. The tech workshop at Boise's North End was hailed by the press as a flame of inspiration. Every success was a beacon, affirming that Nana's legacy was hope. 6 months later, Emma walked in, wearing an old navy blue jacket. "Nana always knew who you were," she said softly, looking at Nana's portrait. "Mom lied to me, told me I wasn't trustworthy, but Mia and the future coders' kids make me want to be part of this." I led her through the community garden, where children were harvesting lettuce, laughing. Emma knelt down, fixing Mia's code, her voice patient. "You achieved more than I thought possible," she said, her eyes tinged with regret but full of resolve. Her words were a small flame, opening the door to forgiveness. The chill was creeping in through the Novatech windows, carrying the memory of old wounds. Emma stood before me, in that worn navy blue jacket, her eyes honest. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said softly. "I just wanted to see what Nana built for you." Her words were a beam of light, melting away the layer of jealousy. I remembered 8-year-old Emma's envious glance when Nana praised me, but then Nana pulled her in too, teaching her to draw charts, trying to embrace us both. "I thought you were trying to erase me from Nana's life," I said, my voice steady, but my chest still heavy with the memory. Emma bowed her head, gripping her jacket cuff. "Mom lied to me too, Lila, told me I wasn't trustworthy. But Mia at Future Coders, the look in her eyes while coding, it made me want to fix things." Emma started working at Novatech, hesitant, testing whether I truly believed her. She quietly fixed the sabotage damage, checked the data, and her eyes lost their defensive edge. One afternoon, she brought me a funding contract for Future Coders from a Boise partner. "I met them at the workshop," she said, handing me the well-prepared proposal, her voice free of pretense. "It will help the kids." I looked at her, searching for any trace of falsehood, but found only a small flame desperately trying to ignite. I led Emma to the community garden, where Mia ran up to her, showing off her clumsy code. Emma knelt down, fixing the loop error, and her smile, so much like Nana's, stunned me. "You've achieved more than I thought possible," she said, her voice warm. Emma volunteered at the Future Coders summer camp, coaching the kids on pitching their ideas. The kids called her Teacher E. Once, she handed me a communication guide for shy children, handwritten on a coffee napkin. "I learned it from Mia," she said, telling me about the timid girl presenting her first idea, her voice trembling but proud. That moment was a bridge, reconnecting everything that had been broken. Novatech flourished, supporting thousands of families through the AI financial app. The family's lawsuit was finally dismissed by the court, thanks to the undeniable weight of Nana Eleanor's letter, her instructions, and the verified testimony from the kind neighbor. My mother sent a short letter, devoid of an apology, writing nonchalantly that she had misunderstood, her tone cold, as if trying to erase 27 years of motherhood. My father remained silent, treating me as if I never existed. And I let them go, not out of hatred, but to protect my own peace and legacy. Future Coders continued planting seeds of hope for rural kids. Every child joining the program received a leather-bound journal, engraved with Nana's words, "Write down what you don't understand." The kind neighbor sent a congratulatory card when Novatech received a prestigious award, a quiet reminder that my Nana, from the start, had always been right. And Boise, my childhood city, now looked at me with respect for everything I had built. Last month, I stood on stage in Seattle beaming as I accepted a prestigious Tech Innovation Award. Nana's star pin glittered on my lapel under the lights. That glow was a fire, illuminating the path I chose. I gently touched the pin, the memory of the kitchen table where Nana taught me that every number holds a story rushing back. And then I returned. I stood before two graves. One for Nana Eleanor, and one, the first time I truly acknowledged it, for my mother, Elena. I laid down two fresh bouquets. Nana, I fulfilled my promise. Mom, I found you, and I will continue your dream, I whispered. The rustling leaves around the grave felt like a reply. Novatech is no longer just a company. It is my mother's legacy, my grandmother's love, and my promise to them both. Every wound in me has healed, not because of time, but because I found the truth of my own origin. I am no longer the forgotten one. I am Leela, Alina's daughter, Eleanor's granddaughter, and the protector of my family's legacy. Turning my back to walk away, I knew that the fire of my mother and grandmother would always burn within me, guiding the journey ahead. If you've ever been treated like a burden, remember, you are not alone. Own your story, be brave enough to write a new chapter, and become the fire for those who are still lost. Because, just as Nana always believed in me, I believe you are a star that will never fade. The moment Lila stood before her mother's and grandmother's graves, she didn't just find her family. She reclaimed her honor and the truth buried for 27 years. If you've ever felt powerless against injustice or been denied by your own blood, remember this. Your true value isn't in what others say, but in the truth you dare to live. Support us in spreading these stories of courage and justice. Subscribe now to join the fight for the forgotten voices. After all, do you think justice was fully served? Or is there still one more betrayal yet to be exposed? Comment below to share your take.